I've been rewatching some old Star Trek The Next Generation episodes lately. Don't ask me why. This was a show that I actually enjoyed when it came out in the late 80s and early 90s. I had been somewhat of a fan of the old Star Trek, although I was never as into Star Trek as I was into Star Wars. But I did watch this show fairly regularly. It was something that my parents and I would watch together. I remember on Sunday nights, and we would have Chinese food, and we would watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's just one of those memories. So I could just taste the hot and sour soup as I was watching. But it strikes me lately that the Federation is just awful. I hate the Federation, especially as it is presented in The Next Generation, and probably in everything that is to come after that. It's just so smug. It's so full of itself. It's so up its own asshole. It's just, there's a funny video actually that I will link to by this red-headed British comedian who's really quite funny, where he presents the Federation as, well, we are the vegetarian space socialists who are always right. And then somebody else tells him, you're the worst. And he says, yes, we are. And I have to agree. They are the vegetarian space socialists who are up their own butthole so far, just thinking that they're so wonderful and so fantastic. Who wouldn't prefer the Klingon Empire or the Romulans or any other sort of manifestations of nationalism in this universe as opposed to the Federation, which really is it's in so many ways just the borderless globalist. It's beyond globalist. It's galaxyist in its reach, but it pretends to be so benign, and it pretends to be so so good and virtuous all the time. There was an episode though that I want to describe that really ticked me off, because I knew going into it that what the Federation was, and I remember enough. It's not like I have to just be completely simpatico with everything I watch. I can watch some things for just entertainment, and this had some nostalgia effect, some nostalgia value. And I would have to say also that Patrick Stewart, although maybe he speaking of being up your own asshole, maybe he's also somewhat of that kind of personality, from what I can gather. But he's really good. I have to give him props. He's really good actor. And Brent Spiner as Data. Data makes the show. I mean, the character of Data, right on with that. And Worf is good. I also like Worf. But this episode really bothered me. Let me describe what happened. So it's the second season, 18th episode. It's called Up the Jacob's Ladder, I think. Up the Ladder. I don't know why it's called that. But what happens is they have to rescue this this old space colony that's lived in this outdated sort of way. And they're like, the portrayal of this colony of people is so ridiculously, it's just so embarrassingly burlesque. It just takes you out of the moment. But that's not the main problem with it. So this colony of people are just portrayed as these hardy, 18th century, peasants with their chicken coops and their, I don't know, this just their old-fashioned clothes, and the leader is this Irish talking, very shticky Irish talking guy. It's supposed to be funny. It's really so lame, so irritating to watch. You know, the tonal changes are a problem with Star Trek oftentimes, and it can be an issue with other shows as well, other TV shows, where they go from being, this is serious, take this seriously, to oh, look at these funny capering peasants, aren't they hilarious? Anyhow, there's this colony, and then there's another colony of people who are the exact opposite. They're very highly technological, but they have only existed. They've only gone on existing by cloning themselves, and they have grown. They're hyper intellectual, and they've grown to really look down on the guttural, generative, pelvic, let us say, aspects of humanity. They're not into sex. They think it's just gross. But the problem is this hyper advanced colony is dying out, because there's something like with entropy with the clones that are produced. Every few clones are stunted, and so they've just run out of genes to keep reproducing themselves, and so they need new genes, and so they request from the Enterprise. They ask just for some volunteers to come down and allow them to take their DNA so they can be cloned. And Captain Riker, who's an ass, I can't stand him. And by the way, it's so irritating that he has to be, oh, look at Captain Riker, he's such a ladies' man. Ha ha ha. Look at him getting some tail. That was a really irritating aspect of the show as well. It probably wouldn't exist today because it would be thought of as sexist. And I don't normally like, the changes that have come about, everything, our culture today, but I would actually welcome that, welcome the elimination of Riker, the lady killer. And so anyway, the request is made of Riker and this other character. It's not important, and they're both very like self-righteous in their objections. Like, you cannot clone me. I'm a special and unique individual. If you clone me, I won't be so unique anymore, and therefore I do not consent to you using my DNA to create clones. And okay, it's his choice, fine. And I'm not. I don't favor cloning either. I don't believe in cloning, but not for the reasons given by Riker in this episode, which just seemed to be, sheer arrogance. I'm special, and there doesn't need to be any more of me but me. But I would agree that it's his choice whether to be cloned or not. So these people lure them down, and they for the smart people, the Federation guys are not always that smart, because there's this moment after Riker sanctimoniously refuses cloning, where the leader guy says, "Well, okay, we've got a few things that need to be repaired. Can you maybe come down and have some other people come down and help make these little minor repairs, and then you can just go?" And they say, "Sure." It's like they don't understand that the trap has been sprung. So they go down, and of course they get shot with a stun gun, and their DNA is taken, and clones are made of Riker and this other character. It's not important. So after this happens, Riker is just all bent out of shape. He's all up in arms. They can't do that. They can't take my DNA and make a clone out of me. And see, here's where things get really really uncomfortable for me in watching this episode. Up until now, it's just been kind of dull and kind of stupid and lame. But at this point, it goes into becoming really morally quite reprehensible. What these Federation people do, this is Federation morality at work, and we see that it's not anything to emulate at all. So Riker goes down, and the clones are in development in the cloning chamber. They haven't yet taken humanoid, positive humanoid form, but they're being developed. They're like children in the womb, essentially, at that point. What does Riker do? He opens the chamber and he shoots them and kills them. He kills these two developing human beings. And they even say afterwards, well, I have a right to my body. And it's so obviously so, ham-fistedly, this pro-abortion representation. But even absent that, even if they hadn't made it so blatant, there's something just so it's understood that the DNA was taken illegitimately, but once they took that DNA and once they started to develop an actual human being from that DNA, then that was life. Okay. And Riker just in this sequence, it's just absolutely repellent what he does. But so he shoots the clones. They just evaporate. It's not like they we see them scream and cry and writhe like that. But it's just sort of like in like an abortion of a child that's like 3 or 4 months along. There are some remains left behind, but that's it. So after that, the Enterprise says, well, you know what, we're not going to agree to cloning. They could have, I bet that some people on the ship would have agreed to have themselves be cloned. They didn't ask the entire crew, but they just assumed, well, none of the crew is going to consent to that. So anyway, what they do instead is they take this stupid, lame, barely developed this space colony that had just lived like 19th century peasants. Like the whole idea was to get back to nature and so forth. And so they're wearing tweeds and just acting like stereotypical. It's so, again, the portrayal of this colony is so dumb. But anyway, the continuing moral reprehensibility of the episode is that the doctor of the Enterprise, not Dr. Crusher, she was beautiful, she was great, she was lovely. But the season she wasn't on, and they had Dr. Pulaski on, who was not very pleasant. But this Dr. Pulaski says, well, you know what? We should just let these two colonies reproduce, get them together, and have them, start reproducing the old-fashioned way. That would be fine if it had just ended that way. If they'd taken this sort of this group of this colony of hyper advanced technological beings that had sort of lost contact with their more primal selves, and unleashed upon them this other colony of people who were nothing but primal, and they both helped each other out, or complemented each other, and just said, okay, find mates between yourselves, and then you can reproduce, and that would be perfect. But instead, what Pulaski says is, what we need is for every woman to have 3 different men to mate with. Because for some reason that would, I don't even remember the reason why they mandate that. Somehow it's going to be better for the stock that is resultant. So she says, she says to this colony, you can't. The one thing is, you need to give up monogamy, and instead have every woman have a child with 3 different men. And the people just say, well, okay, we'll do that, and that's how it ends. So the Federation, not only consents to the destruction of developing human life, which again was illegitimately gotten in a way, because the Riker and the other character hadn't wanted to give up their DNA. But still, this was developing life. This was actual human life, and it was killed in the proverbial womb. It was killed in the chamber. That was loathsome enough. But now they're saying, we Federation, head shrinkers, we Federation bigwigs, and social engineers. Now we're going to declare that your way of life, your way of having families, your traditional monogamic life, or society that's organized on the system of monogamy, you have to give that up, and you have to let your women become whores, and have 3 different men take each, have a child with each woman, because reasons. So I was aghast at the end of this episode. I was absolutely aghast at the degree to which the degree to which this episode was openly advocating for not just abortion, but also the scuttling of monogamy, and for supposedly eugenic purposes, for the elimination of monogamy. It was really just it was disgusting. It was loathsome, and it makes me not want to watch any more episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which I again started to watch it, and I must have missed this one back when I was a kid, because I think it would have stood out to me even back then. But the social engineering in this episode is pretty evident. So there you go. If you've seen it, if you've got that evil streaming service, and you have access to it, check it out for yourself, and tell me what you think. It's again, Up the Ladder. I think that's the name of the episode. Season 2 of The Next Generation, episode 18. Anyway, just thought I would vent my spleen a bit here about what I just saw. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.